acousmatic music comes from, in general, not being able to see with your eyes the sources of the sounds. That's the core idea behind it. So it's interesting because having this dichotomy between, of course, having like a narrative in the film is very linear, it's very clear, it's very literal in a sense. So having to work with sounds that doesn't really relate all the time to what you are seeing. So the area where you can work, or where I like to work, and I enjoy that quite a lot in this film, is you can generate sounds that clearly come from what you are seeing or what you have on the screen, but you can also create sounds that come from the behaviors of what you see, or the movements, or how people behave on screen, not the actual individual, but how they behave, or their gestures. And then you can go a little bit further and generate sounds from the textures of what you see behind the main characters, not only on the landscapes or everything, but the second characters, or the not the first character, or everyone else. And then you can also have sounds of or what I created, a family of sounds that came from the resulting sound of the actions you see on screen, which is a different thing completely. So working with all those families, you can go from a very literal, clearly related action-reaction relationship between sounds and what's happening on screen, into worlds where you have two different layers, which are related by behaviors, or maybe by textures, or by how the color is changing, but they are not that clear. They are not that programmatic or literal, if I would say. Something that happened is that when I was I had a little bit more than half of the ideas and the sounds. I found this book that I showed about the movie. It's a huge book that I thanks to a friend of mine who gave me the book. So I started reading. I didn't know the book before when I started. I found it later, like a month and a half ago. So it gave me a lot of ideas in terms of where the characters and the technical process of the film, of the sections of the film came from. So just to answer your question, that allowed me to start linking some of the sounds and the ideas. So think about a specific part, for example, the whole bullfight scene, all that from where it starts. At the beginning, I decided to use some of the sounds as sources, the sounds that came on the soundtrack, like the audience and many of other stuff, guitar and stuff like that. So I sampled that and started transforming and generating my own sounds and all the processes that I usually do for acousmatic music. Some generating a little bit nicer stereo image for the sounds and all that. And then I started working with the book in that scene, from where they present the toreros, the heroes of that segment, and then they link them with the religious sign, and they go and visit their mother to have good luck. And then, so those are like very intimate moments that I started just presenting some of the materials, and then it goes directly into the actual ring and the bullfight and everything, with thousands of people and noise and an energy, and the beautiful lady that it's over there, like sending flowers and expecting the hero to actually win the fight. So it grew quite a lot, and it helped me to generate layers of sound. So that being said, on the other hand, I'm so against the bullfighting thing, me personally, but I understand that the film comes from what Mexico was at the time and everything. So I was always trying to find a couple of sounds and things that allow me to say, well, I don't really like this, and the ending is horrible, and the whole part. So that was a pretty challenging sequence for me in that sense. I didn't know what to do. I wanted it to be like festive, but at the same time acousmatic, and at the same time a critique of the bullfighting, but trying to keep in mind that the image and the process comes from a different time. That happened for the whole film. It's a completely different view. Nowadays, you could say that there are segments which are not politically correct at all in the film, which is something that it was a very nice challenge for me, because I think it's a beautiful film. And then reading the book, finding out what the whole crew had to do to actually do like film the thing and then edit the stuff and everything, it was amazing. So the bullfighting sequence, which is about maybe 12 to 15 minutes, was pretty intense for me. In this particular film, it was very shocking for me to go through the film and start understanding all these perspectives of trying to, at the same time, being in Mexico and learning everything for the film crew, and finding a way of portraying that to the world as a very exotic place, as a completely out of this world place in terms of how people relate and traditions, and the whole Day of the Dead stuff that even has the encore at the end of the movie. It's pretty shocking, still is very shocking. But seeing that from today, or an actual point of view, seems to be completely outdated, of course, and sometimes even politically incorrect, I would say. But I like that a lot, because it's clearly a way of exploring a country, their people, their traditions, in a way where they can, sometimes it's very literal, it's a bit naive, I would say, but that it's naive today. It wasn't naive at the time, and it wasn't naive at when the edition was done. It's like the music, it's a little bit even more naive in a sense, the original soundtrack, I would say. So that was very inspiring for me, because it was a way of how can you create sound that it's made by computers and technology is present, but at the same time it's shown on screen something that's completely not related to today's technology. It's a completely different way of seeing tools and ways of interaction and stuff like that. So I would say that was a pretty that was a place where friction came and allowed me to generate ideas. And on the other hand, I see the film today as an historical document as well, and that allows me to understand that. And then reading the book and finding out, for example, the whole process before coming to Mexico, when the director Eisenstein was in the U.S., in California, and with the big picture people and finding money and the whole stuff. That's pretty impressive, because at the end of the day, it was also a way of putting together a huge project at the time, and coming to a place where you have to find actors, the permits. Reading the book, it was amazing. The whole process of getting the permits to bring in the equipment and everything, it was a letter and telegrams, and it was a completely different thing. So it was pretty amazing for me to see the film, knowing everything that was going on, or that went on behind the scenes. Today, it's in that sense, it's very similar to today. I mean, doing a film anywhere, it's as complicated as ever. But the thing is that Mexico was like the last frontier at the time, and now people just go and film in Mars or in the middle of the jungle or whatever, in the ocean, at the very deep place or whatever. But at the end, at that time, Mexico was as far as today we can go with Star Wars and places like that. It was as different as those places. I think it's interesting, because Mexico, it's a very good country. We do a very good job in terms of keeping this image of the exotic place, and the Day of the Dead tradition, and the bullfight, and the water canals that happened, and the hacienda, and the fighting, and the sombrero. I mean, half of the country is still like that, and we're very good at portraying that to the world, and we are proud of that. But then there's the whole other Mexico that comes from different traditions, or even people like me with great grandparents from Europe and stuff like that. So that side of Mexico, it's of course not portrayed over there that clearly. So I think it's a film that allows us to reflect on that, how a country can keep all those traditions, all those really interesting perspectives of life, and then how modernity, if you would say, or how the 20th century also interact with all those things.